I've given the task to talk about how e-navigation has transformed the passage planning, and I will do so. For those of you who have young eyes or glasses on, you can see that I'm an e-navigation manager. And I tell you also that that is a risky position later on, and why. If you're talking about e-navigation, we have to go back to this definition again, so we can believe that we can talk about the same thing. So I'm always keeping my eyes on the IMO definition. We don't need to go through it, but I'm quite sure you know well about it. It's about collecting, integrating, presenting, analyzing, and exchanging digital information. And that's it. And that is, in fact, what passage planning is all about. And how can then e-navigation contribute to that task of passage planning? And why do Navtor have some credibility in the e-navigation? Navtor were started or started up in 2011, and our business was e-navigation. And we were just a year ahead of the ECDIS mandate, as you remember, 2012 to 2018. And we saw that it was a lot of challenges with ENCs, with updating of ENCs, licensing of ENCs, and that was our main focus in the beginning. Later on, we have, of course, added a lot of new services, and it's the same as always. If you zoom up a little bit, all these vessels are our, and they are more or less covering the Earth. But in fact, if you look at the number as well, we started with now a 0 vessel in 2011. I was on board the first one, installing myself in 2012. That was a lot of hassle, I can tell you. We wasn't aware that the vessel was going on sea trail the next day in the morning, and we arrived in the afternoon, and we had a lot of problem, of course. So we were sitting with the developers on my ear, trying to install on this vessel, and okay, we managed. They are still our customer today. So we reached 4,000 vessels then 2 years ago, and this has still continued. And 2 weeks ago, we passed 5,555 vessels. So it means that what we are doing have bias, so to say. There are a meaning of in what we are supplying in the market, and I can tell you how we have done that with the passage planning. Today, we started with the offshore segment, where we're spreading quite well. But when we are talking about the passage planner, I can say for sure that we are penetrating the tanker market very heavily, and this is due to our passage planning, where we have worked for 3 years with wetting, with port site, with BIMCO, with OKIMP, and also oil majors have been contributing. So we have been able now to make a passage plan that do fulfill all the requirement. And some of our customers that has a big fleet of tanker, since they put us on board, they haven't had any deficiencies. I will come back to that for 2 years. So that's good. In addition, we are focusing more and more on the cruise segment as well, which also have, of course, quite strict safety concerns to take into account. So that's why we can talk about passage planning. So what is passage planning? Yeah, well, you know, that is a mandatory action to take place before you start sailing. Before you leave your port, you need to have a plan for your next intended voyage. And the traditional one is very man-intensive, absolutely. But it is defined what you're going to do. There is a definition by IMO, which is then extended by OKIMF and especially the tankers. It is the appraisal, planning, execution, and monitoring. The two last one, execution and monitoring, that is more on the ECDIS side, and we don't do ECDIS. We do the kernel of the ECDIS, but we don't do any hardware. It is the two first one that we are concerned about. It's the appraisal and planning part, which have taken a lot of time in the earlier days. Before you can start to simplify such a task, you need a platform. So that we have spent a lot of time having a platform that can transfer information from shore to the vessel and the other way around. So it starts with our cloud, our Azure cloud, sending data to Navbox and then further out to the active system, for instance, chart updates and licenses. It goes also to the back of bridge planning station that we are calling Nav station. And we do passage planning or other things and send it back. Part of it go to Actis and part of it go back to the cloud. And from the cloud, it goes out to you, the end user. Nav tracker is the kind of shore-based, web-based interface where they can follow the vessel in all details. And that is also where the passage plans are ending up in the end, the ship-owning companies. But the main part here is the planning station, the nav station. It can either be on a computer or it can be on a digital chart table. So we were the first one introducing digital chart tables in the market. And the appraisal phase has been in a traditional way. It's a lot of information you need. ENCs, of course, you need ADP, the total tide list of light, radio signals, and so on. You need TNP, you need ENP, you need Navtex, you need MARPOL. You need a lot of information. And what is now the case is that that has taken a lot of time, weather and updates as well, of course. The software updates need to be also transferred on board. While today, and certificates, of course, everything has to be proven that is updated. So today, we do that in Nav Station. So we start with a desktop, so to say, with a lot of information available. ENCs is, of course, available. We have a route planning facility on the Nav Station. We have the ADP, all of those. We have the AENPs. We have the weather overlay, and so on. The last thing we have added now, in addition to Nav area warning, is MARPOL regulation. Not only the MARPOL, but also the regional, the national, and the port regulation for emission. And that is quite convenient, especially for tankers and cruise vessels. And everything can then be exchanged to either Actis or to our mooring or maneuvering assistant. We'll come back to that. But then, when we have all this information, we have done the appraisal, we are over to the planning phase. And with all the information available, integrated, we can start to use that information. And when you have the route, either from a library or from automatic creation, or you have made it yourself, you can then make the route, and we list up all the information along the route automatically. So that is an easy task. A bit more heavy task is to do under-keel clearance calculation and safety checks. Under-keel clearance calculation, of course, need to calculate the squat as well. And we know the speed of the vessel, we need the bathymetry, and we have the total tide. And then it's easy also to give our estimate on the under-keel clearance calculation, which is then compared to company settings, and you get a warning if you are out of your criteria. Then, when you are finished, we do a safety check, because our planning station is in fact an Actis kernel in the bottom. So we have a complete safety check, meaning that when you are finished, you can transfer this route to the Actis, and it will be safe. It will pass the same check in the Actis system. And to just add that, we see that the industry is asking for kind of integrated solutions. So we are now also adding the optimization into the passage planning module. So when you have a route planned and you are, for instance, crossing a high sea area, it will also be available weather routing and optimization service. So we have that included and integrated in this service. If you are happy with your passage plan, you would like to exchange it, because this passage plan is made then back of bridge. And you need somehow to transfer it to the Actis system, which is not an obvious case. So we have spent a lot of time on our nav box, which is our edge on board, and type approve it to the IEC 61162 460. No one will remember that one, but that is the standard for a safe gateway. And then we are able to connect internet in one end and the bridge network in another end. And then there are protocols, of course. It's not on our internet, but it's a protocol available to exchange this. And then you have this picture, passive planning by e-navigation. Well, we collect data on board from shore side and from on board side. We integrate, present, and analyze it in nav station, and we can also do that in our nav tracker at shore. We start to exchange from the safe nav box, which is cyber secure in as high as you can come, and also to the shore side. And then we have basically done what we can do with passive planning. And you exchange it to shore, and you can compare your planned route as a passive plan with the track, and the ship owner can easily follow whether you are inside or outside your corridor, for instance, at the shore side. So the transparency between shore and vessel are increasing. And this will also solve the new problem that is coming up, that the ship owner or the shore-based organization should have a copy of the passage plan at shore. And now they have. So what is the benefit then of doing it? Definitely you save a lot of time. This is an independent German captain sailing from Barcelona to Gran Canaria. So he had made a traditional passage plan with his traditional methods using 3.5 hours. We brought nav station on board, and after 1 month he could happily say that he had reduced his time to 30 minutes only. And that was a small voyage. If you have more waypoints, it will be considerable more savings. But not only time. We were into deficiencies earlier. This is older data from Paris MOU, but I think the picture is the same. You have the two to the left. We can't do anything about those. But the 3 next one, which constitute of 25% of all the deficiencies, we can more or less eliminate. As I said, 2 years with 50 vessels, they didn't have 1 findings or 1 deficiencies on the navigation part. So that is important to sleep well for the ship owners. Deficiencies you do not want to have as a tanker owner, definitely. So then, what have the e-navigation industry done? Because it's not only us doing this. Well, we have been kind of doing the collect and integration process. We have done the presenting and analysis process with the automatic nav station generation. We have solved the problem of exchange, cybersecurity on board. It has to be said that also the OEM, either being Furuno or JRC or SAM or whoever, has to use some protocols to make it completely safe. And we have regular feedbacks with the end user to have always some additional feature or updates, which we do automatically. And then, of course, we start to comply to IMO's definition. I would say we do, from a navigational point of view at least. And then what? Being an e-navigation manager, out of work soon? Or is there some other area we should look into? Well, I looked one more time on the definition of e-navigation, and then I found it. And protection of the marine environment. And we have been talking about this earlier today. For sure, that is the next big one. We know that most of our stakeholders are asking for green shipping. IMO is asking for green shipping. We have this 30% reduction by 2030 and 50 by 2050. For sure, that is important for us to look into. So that is what we will focus on next now. And we are too short now to go into that. But for sure, next time I can tell you about our work on that one. Thank you.